Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, FF family. Today is Friday, March 28th. This is episode 18 of the Freedom Finances Podcast. Today, we're going to go over gold, physical assets, and the FF Readers questions we've been receiving over the past week. So, as always, I'm your host. My name is Dylan. I'm here with Bradley and Nick. I'm just the good-looking one that makes sure the show is staying on track. Well, these two are the brains behind the operation. So, we're looking forward to this. Yeah, make sure I know that. So we're going to go over a couple things today. So first, we have some ideas we're going to go over with the investment draft, see where we're at, see how far along we are in our little game. Sorry, Nick. And I do want to make sure as well, before we get started, I think we all know currently right now the stock market isn't doing the best. So I want to start us off with a little positive in our lives. Nick, you were gone last week, so kick us off with something positive going on in your life right now.
So had a great time on my vacation in Kansas City. Got to go to Dave and Buster's, played a little mini golf, and when we got home, we got my daughter a little Chihuahua puppy named Remy, like the rat from Ratatouille, and
Oh
he's
yeah,
like 2 pounds. He's adorable.
Nice.
So good time all around.
Nice.
nice.
Is the rat in Ratatouille not named Ratatouille?
No, his name is
No.
Remy,
Oh.
like I referenced earlier, but Ratatouille is what he cooks.
He did
Oh, okay.
he did do that. Yeah, the Ratatouille is I think the meal that they make. I think that's the point of it. That's the soup.
Yeah.
Spoiler
I,
alert.
I
That's how
I
they
thought
win.
Ratatouille was his name. I've never seen Ratatouille, obviously, so
Oh my goodness.
I get it. It's fine. He only just explained it beforehand. Hey Bradley, so now since you're paying attention, what went well during your week? What happened?
congratulations and great day to everyone yesterday who celebrated MLB opening day. So great day. Start off the MLB season. It's basically a national holiday at this point. So yeah, and the White Sox won, which is pretty crazy. So that's a
Way
pretty
better
great day.
start than last time, right?
Yep.
What are the changes they made again from seasons last season? Because if you don't know, they didn't have like the best season or something last season, right? I
No,
can't
they had
remember.
they had the worst historical season in modern baseball history in the last like 125 years. So yeah, they had they're a very bad team. So, but
All
they
right, well
won,
that's
and it was
depressing.
opening day. So I watched baseball all
Good.
day yesterday.
Legitimately, they needed that win for sure.
Yeah.
To start us off. For me, my positive got going on. So I've mentioned it before. I started boxing. I started sparring for the first time, and my sparring partner had to concede. I actually air quotes beat them, but realistically, we're not like punching faces and stuff, so they tired out. So I was able to take the dub, and that was nice. It's nice little seeing progress because that guy he just started about the time. As long as I have been doing this, he just started. So I feel like I saw myself back then, and I got to see some progress where I was like, oh, that was me 3 months ago. So that was nice to see.
So your
So
good news is you beat up somebody.
they conceded, but yeah, absolutely. Just gonna make sure you're always on top. You know what I mean? So speaking of beat up, so we're gonna move on to the investment draft. Good transition there, Nick.
That
Appreciate
was
you.
good.
So I guess we can start with you if you want to start us off here, Nick. So currently, right now, so if anyone doesn't know, we have a game that we're getting updates on each week called the investment draft, where these two took 100 grand and invested in the stock market as a little competition to see who would gain the most money over the stock market period. And so far, it's kind of turned in who's losing the least.
Yep.
So we have current, I guess, in the lead right now. So that's what we're going to start with. So Nick, right now your total is at $91,338.43. You're down 8.66%. Your biggest winner, Pfizer, at almost 4%, and your biggest loser is Amazon at negative 20%. Yikes. With everything on here, so I know you're on vacation last week, but what are some insights you got? Why is Pfizer winning? Why is Amazon losing?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. Pfizer was a gamble. That was just kind of a like let's see what happens. I don't have a lot of that sector in my portfolio, so I couldn't tell you. My Amazon though, I'm just really feeling bad for my guy Bezos because he must be really struggling right now with
Yeah.
all the money he's losing. So maybe start a GoFundMe for him or something. But no, I think our blue chip stocks got hammered. You know what I mean? And so Amazon's right up with them. I think a lot of those guys just took a beating. I think they were probably overpriced a little bit, and maybe the entry into the market wasn't timed great. I kind of chalk that up to why I've lost so much. I still think Amazon has great, technicals and fundamentals, so I'm not worried about it. I think the market's going to correct and we'll be in a good spot. But yeah, it's definitely taking a beating. Maybe I should have just held cash when we started this.
Like
Yeah.
a
I'd be
hundred
in the
thousand
Might
lead.
have kept
dollars
the
in
value.
cash.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hold right now. I feel like I'm at 18 right now. I don't really want to hit it, So, all right. Just as everyone knows as well, so kind of with the AI tech stock sector in general, we've seen the downward trend, and everywhere as of right now, as recording this, we've seen just a downward trend right now. Is like S&P 500 down almost 2%, Dow 30 almost down another 2%, Nasdaq down 3. It's a little rough right now for everything. I think we're gonna have a little message for you at the end of this, so don't panic as always. But if you've spent $100,000, you're probably not looking too good in the past quarter. So thank you, Nick. Bradley, so you're currently at your total of $93,000, 633 and 67 cents, and you are down 6.34%. So currently, right now, your biggest winner still holding strong, BRK/B, the Berkshire Fund, at a positive almost 12%, and your biggest loser is Tesla, down 21.68. So Amazon's not losing as much as Tesla is currently. We've kind of heard from Tesla back and forth. Do you feel like any changes with Tesla, why they're losing, and the Berkshire Fund, why do you feel like that's winning?
Well, Tesla's up 5% for the week because last week I was down 26%. So small wins. Um, and and even though I'm down more than I was last week, Tesla improved. But like Nick was saying, like Google's down, Meta's down. Who else? Like the our my mutual fund is down, so it's like everything tied to the S&P, the big top 10 is down and kind of getting worse. So yeah. So Tesla doing better. I think sales are supposed to come out in the next couple weeks, and I think for a lot of these companies, sales will come out and it'll look, or revenues will come out and it'll look a lot better, especially for someone like Tesla who actively sells cars, right? And then Berkshire Fund is just a quality fund, so buy some Berkshire if you want and hold it and hold it for 30 years. See what happens because it's gone down and it hasn't gone. The stock market's gone down, but Berkshire hasn't. So I don't know. That's why I grabbed it.
All right, we'll see. Yep. A couple things with that as well. I think you can recognize that, like the fund that Bradley invested into, it kind of ties the stock market. So unless we have a full economic crash that we will never recover from, more than likely you'll see both sides of these two gentlemen here rallying back. But something also that Bradley mentioned before is the revenue reports coming out soon for a lot of these companies, and I think we'll probably stick around, I would say, at least until then with this investment draft to make sure like you'll see a final like revenue report come out. Because I mentioned it before, I think it's pretty obvious. Tesla isn't going to go anywhere unless something crazy happens. It's just how companies work. You'll hardly ever see a boycott or whatever political spectrum that you're on, hate towards Tesla or wherever it is, to actually affect the stock in a meaningful way. And you already see it, like you said, whether 5% again, you said like up this week. So
Yeah.
clearly it's going backwards where they're planning on it. So thank you both. Appreciate you for that. So that's our investment draft, everybody. See you next week again for that one. You'll see an update. Now, I'm going to go over topics. So once again, we're going over gold, physical assets, and we have some questions from our new fans we've been getting. Kudos to Bradley on here. He started a new tip of the days. For every new subscriber, you get one new tip. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube, Facebook, X. We're going to be available on all these platforms and more to come. So make sure you're engaged in all those because the more you follow, you get new tips. Really awesome. So I'm gonna actually slide over to Nick. So kind of talked about holding on to cash here for your investment draft, right? But what about gold? I think we all heard like, hey, gold's around. We talked a little bit, Bradley and I, last week of like actually Fort Knox still holding gold because I didn't actually think we did still. Um, but gold, is it a good investment? What about silver? Any collectibles? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, gold's interesting. I don't know that your average investor buys a lot of gold. But if you look at gold over the last 10 years, it's kind of done exactly what the S&P 500 has done. It's 3x in value. And so most people will say over the long period of time, S&P 500 is a pretty good investment. So I would say it hasn't mimicked it exactly over the last 10 years, but take a step back and kind of look at it, and it's done pretty dang good. It's a rare metal. I think that it has value. So honestly, before we kind of talked about the topics of today's meeting, I'll be honest, I haven't spent a lot of time like investing in gold, but kind of taking a look at it. I think there's worse things you could be invested in. I think it's not, now would I go and dump all my money into gold? Probably not, but maybe a gold fund or something to put in a safe or something like that. It might not be a bad thing to keep for a rainy day. It's performed relatively well. Now, if you go back, 20, 30 years, gold hasn't always been the best investment, depending on what your entry and exit points were. But for the last decade, it's been pretty solid. So I'd say there's definitely other investments that have not performed as well. Um, So yeah, I think if you look at the what 0708 crash, gold went up during that time, right? So it's like it can be a diversified investment to be able to protect yourself if something major did happen. So not a bad investment, I don't think.
Yeah, and to go
Yeah,
along with that, I think like 10 years, like the thing with the gold is like you hold a piece of gold and you do what with it, right? Like with our stocks, I mean, stocks aren't a real thing, right? It's not like a piece of paper that says, "Hi, I own 0.0001% of this company." But gold is like a physical thing, so you can go somewhere to a pawn shop, sell it for 99, what is it? Shoot at like 98% of its value. But like I think Nick, you made a good point with gold being like over the last 10 years kind of spiked. However, it doesn't beat the market. Like it doesn't beat the stock market in the end. And you can kind of tell, just look at the S&P, the price of the S&P is at 5,000 and gold's around 3,000. I think the S&P is at 5,500, right? So if you just look at gold for like its whole history, like it's not going to beat the market, but it is potentially something that you can hold on to, put it in a safe, put it in a safety deposit box and do something with it. But unfortunately, it doesn't quite meet the market. It doesn't beat the market, I should say.
So now a third piece of this that I talked about, we'll skip over silver for a second, but I just want to talk about collectibles. So as you can see over here, I actually have a physical collection of video games and assorted media as well. So I want to talk about two specific things. Yes, Bradley, I know we have seen the closet movies, so
These
sometimes
these
maybe we can do
are
a special.
these are MLB sets. I have
Oh,
1990, 1991, 2022 Diamond Kings, 2023. So those are different. Sorry, go on.
very fair.
Go on.
No, you're okay. Hey, that's fair. That's fair. MLB day yesterday, right? So I think going into the collectibles piece. So I can actually kind of contribute to this when it comes to physical media. So on the GameCube is a pretty popular console to collect for during this in the times of COVID. During the 2020 spike, you saw a collectibles across the board spike. Anything retro, anything that built
Yeah.
the the familiarity of the past went up. Video games, especially the GameCube, saw a major spike. So we're going to take Super Mario Sunshine, for example. So there's a website you can find that's called Price Charting. A lot of people use this for cards. and video games a lot. So whether it's in complete condition or it's just like either the case, so on. Now,
Yeah.
if you're looking at the complete price for this, so this means it has a manual, game, case, whole nine. It's not sealed, but it's complete. This in '08, if we look back in the pricing on eBay, was going for $20. In 2020, this spiked up to 80, and then currently right now it's selling between $40 and $42. So that is one example of just one game that has gone and doubled in price in a little over what 10 years plus, right?
Mhm.
And during that time, you also saw this in other forms of media. Cards. You have not seen on some social media about Pokemon cards exploding in Targets and people fighting over them in Costco because it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Now, of course, COVID was a time where there was a little bit of like, we had the like pipeline of goods being circumvented in wrong places, right? So that
Yeah.
definitely didn't help. But you still can see it holds value from that point. Now, another example you can see is actually in I do nerd out on this a lot, but 28 Days Later. Have any of you two seen that movie, the zombie
Yeah.
movie back in the early
Yeah.
2000s? Okay.
Yeah.
If you don't know, and if you have that movie, you might be sitting on a gold mine. I'm not gonna lie. That movie went from $5 in the recent last, I think it was within 6 months. It's been delisted on any streaming platform right now. You actually can't stream it anywhere unless you pirate it. Now, we don't condone here at FF any pirating, just to be clear. But if you wanted to get a physical copy, the Blu-ray double feature, for example, for both, $200 on Amazon right now. Single copy, they range from about $60 to $80 on the Blu-ray for 28 Days Later. So, going back to like how collectibles work, right? When we talk about gold, and we'll go into silver in a minute, it's strong. It's a strong indicator that having a physical version of something that's like tangible in your hands, can increase over time. I think it's hand in hand what Nick was talking about with gold, for example. I think having that investment, obviously, there's different layers to when it comes to minerals and stuff, but these are people make livings doing this.
Yeah.
There's eBay flippers all the time. There are people who just collect to have fun. This is a business, and it's a tangible good. So
Nick,
sorry to
So
derail a
I
little
Nick,
bit,
Nick,
but
I see you're like dying to say something.
Yeah. So I just want to say though, let's say that you went into investing into DVDs and you happen to have
got it.
28 days later. You also have every other DVD that is worth nothing today, right? So I think there is an investment with physical collectibles, and then there's just things that you like that maybe become collectible over time. I think one of the like Nintendo, generally speaking, has more things that go up in value, but there are things that have decreased in value. You know what I mean? I think that even with the Pokemon card craze, if you look at the price and cost of those things, there are some that have gone up quite a bit, but there's a ton that have decreased in value too. So don't just think like, ooh, if I just go and buy this thing, it's going
Yeah.
to go up in price.
Yeah.
Because look at the most things that are made to be collectible are not worth much later on. The old on the Pokemon thing, right? You remember the old Burger King little balls with the gold card inside
Dude,
of it? Like
I do. I love
everybody thought
those.
everybody
I
thought that
love
was
those
going to be
too.
their
They're so
retirement,
great.
right? They're not worth much anymore. You can get them for like 20, $30 a piece. It's not
Yeah.
the giant thing that everybody thought it was going to be. So you do have to be careful. But I will say, when Pokemon ran their 25th anniversary deal, I did invest probably about $4,000 in some PSA graded cards, and I thought that the Pokemon kind of fandom had every couple of years it would increase. And so I said, hey, at year 30, I think it's going to get bigger. And I was able to turn around and resell those cards for about 100% profit. And so like it worked out. There are a couple of cards that decreased in value, but for the most part, most of those cards doubled over 5 years. So in that case, good investment. But I don't think it always works out that way. I
Yeah.
think you got to be smart with it. Legos, I think, is another one that has gone up in value for like new unopened Lego sets. So yeah, there's definitely some out of the ordinary, out of the box kind of investments that do your research, I guess, is the biggest thing.
So I'll add on to that. I think that collectibles have this odd value that they spike up during certain times. And Dylan, you made a good point. Like during COVID, everyone wanted these old things because you were sitting at home chilling and you're like, man, I want some Pokemon cards or I want a GameStop or what is it called? The Nintendo
I too want a GameStop.
what
Switch?
GameCube. Sorry.
Oh,
Okay. So here's something some people do collect. VHSs, right? So I
true.
have in front of me on my computer screen a James Bond VHS collection with 7 James Bond from Goldfinger to GoldenEye. 7 of them. They're not in like perfect or closed condition or anything. They're worth it's $15 for the whole set. 15 1483 to be specific. So like if you collected that, I mean VHSs back in the day were what, between $15 and $25 a piece. So if you
Yeah.
collected the James Bond collection and spent $150 on these, well, it went down in value like 900%, right? So I do think that like there's a little bit of luck and you kind of have to time it right. And just like the market, you don't really try. I mean, a lot of people do, but you shouldn't try to time the market because you're gonna get unlucky. And like Nick, that's great. You bought $3,000 worth of Pokemon cards and flipped them for $6,000 or whatever. But like I recommend like don't collect stuff to make a profit because like even from like an accounting standpoint, like you increase your inventory, you slow down your cash flow just to store it away in a closet, take up your room in hopes that something's going to go up in value. Collect things because you like them. That's what I do, right? Like I have my Blu-ray collection. I don't know how much they're worth. I've, baseball cards or video games or whatever. But I do it because I like them, not because I'm like, I'm gonna flip this in 3 or 4 years. Because you're gonna get unlucky and you're gonna collect a James Bond VHS set and lose $140. So that's my thought. Like, collect it because you like it, but it's not good just personal accounting to spend a bunch of money hoping something goes up in value.
So both of these guys stole my thunder here. That was where I was going to end up, which was exactly that. Both the points. It's one, it's risky, and two, these aren't going anywhere, right? Like I'm not selling these later. It's for me. It's how do I invest so I don't have to pay higher later? Like that's my only goal. Because I don't want to get rid of it. I want to have a collection. I want to
Right.
go and say, hey, here's my literal library of content that I can play through,
Yeah.
watch, listen, whatever. So completely agree, gentlemen. Lastly, on this piece, we had silver. Anything, Nick, do you want to add for silver specifically as opposed to gold?
Yeah, I think not that, an expert on silver by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think that it's got a lower cost of entry, so it might be interesting to a different type of investor, somebody who maybe can't afford to invest in gold or to have those types of things. And I think it's had periods of time where it's outperformed gold, but I think it's a different type of asset. I would say same thing with gold. I think it's an investment that has done well. It has increased in value. It's got a different type of investor, so obviously going to have different ups and downs and things like that. But I think if you're trying to be diversified and you want a low cost of entry, why not go for silver? I think it also opens up the door to like collectible coins and things like that. And so it's just, I think it's a different type of investment, but same concerns and I think benefits that gold has. It just has a little bit more diversification and a lower entry point, really.
Yeah. Yeah, silver's weird. It's a lot like gold in the sense that it like slowly goes up, but goes up a lot slower. And I think the whole idea with physical assets like gold, silver, even collectibles is that like you're gonna have to hold on to a lot of stuff and have a lot of hope. Like you and I were talking about, Dylan, like what do we do with gold anymore, right? Like it's used in electronics. It's like what is it used
Wiring,
for?
like
Like yeah, before gold was used as like to show off your wealth. But like gold, there's not enough value in gold, at least mined in the earth, to cover even household debt in the United States. So gold, silver,
Fake
they're all
number.
very
Fake
odd
number.
things. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you both on there. So I think overall we can say is invest wisely as always. Don't assume that your 28 Days Later or your James Bond VHS collection will make you rich and famous, because I think we all can remember the Furby craze from the 90s. At least we're all old enough for that one. So no one paid off their college from that one. So
Or Beanie
thank you both.
Babies.
Brett.
Oh,
Oof. Beanie Babies, man, they should make a comeback. That would sell. I'm telling you right now, Beanie Babies come back beginning of 2026. They do like a slow build up to it, like it's
Yeah.
just like big showcase, like the Taco Bell or iPhone release, and it's about
And we'll
Beanie
make a
Babies.
Beanie
I'm
Baby
telling you.
ETF.
Oh yes, perfect. And the little opening thing, that's your QR code you can scan for your.
oh my God.
This is
Doing.
crazy. This is it. Oh my God, we need to make Beanie Babies. No one's ever thought of this before. Perfect. Going to the blockchain, setting it up now. No one steal the idea.
God.
Bradley, going to you.
Yes.
So on the same vein, just to wrap up the physical assets, there's also two things that I think come to mind when it comes to physical assets that everyone has generally, is either property or cars.
Yeah.
Now, I know that we've talked about cars being appreciating value, so let's start there and then we can go into property.
Yeah, so cars, like for me, like I think of cars as utility, and I think that's the best way to look at a car is what utility does it provide you in your lifestyle. If you use it for luxury, you're always gonna, lose out. But if you use it for utility, it's a good thing. So I think it's okay to get a new car. I don't think you should always upgrade your car every couple years just because you want one. But let me give you an example. When Carrie and I moved from Springfield to Colorado Springs, there's a lot of mountains in Colorado, and we had a GMC Terrain, which was like a four-cylinder car. It was kind of rattly. And we are like, we wanted to invest in like exploring Colorado and the mountains. So we got a new car. We got a Honda Passport, and it's an all-wheel drive, and that was it for us, was the utility. We wanted to be able to use this car, put a lot of rugged miles on it to go explore the mountains. Literally, that's what, we've done. Like a couple weeks ago, we were in the mountains, and on the north side of the mountains, especially, in the spring, like the sun is on the left side, the south side. And so like it doesn't melt like this, like if this is a mountain, all the snow is melted here and there's a bunch of snow here. So we were slowly going up this mountain and the snow was getting deeper and deeper. And at one point we're like, are we gonna make it? And that's what I use my car for. It's utility. It's not to show off value. But like it is something that keeps people poor, but it's also something that like the more you upgrade, it will keep you at the level you are. So if you want to do wealth the right way, hold on to your car and don't buy a new car unless you're ready to afford it. But it's something that kind of perpetually keeps you at like the class you're at or drops you down to a lower class. So if you're like, I want to build wealth for the long term, I want to build wealth wisely, keep your car, keep the car you have. Don't keep upgrading your car. Wait as long as possible. If you have utility for it, sweet, go ahead. If it's not important to increase your lifestyle financially, that's fine. But cars, you're right, they drop in value. But that's my story about how a car can work really well for you or keep you down.
All right. Now, either one of you can hop into this, but as far as property goes, so we're talking houses, maybe you got a beachfront, new condos, maybe you're renting out to somebody. What are some ideas when it comes to property? Is it a good investment? Is it the same as a car? What do you think?
No, not the same as a car in any stretch of
Okay.
the imagination. Somebody once told me land is something they're not making any more of. And so when you're buying property, you're buying land, right? So if nothing else, you've got a an asset that there's a finite amount of it, right?
Right. Yeah.
Historically speaking, with a few exceptions, property has been something that has been one of the best investments, I think, for your average Joe Schmo. Your house is going to be the biggest investment that you probably make for the entirety of your life. And I think that not trying to do it as a like let me get in cheap and then sell high, but just as like, hey, let
Yeah,
me
that's a
just
good point.
buy a home and live in it, and take care of it, upkeep, and things like that. Every home I've had has increased in value substantially. Everybody that I know who has bought a home has increased in value. And if you hold it over a long period of time, it's probably going to outpace any other investment that you have. And at least in Missouri, I don't know, there could be different rules, Colorado and stuff. The sale of your home, if it's your primary residence, is got tax benefits as well, up to certain amounts and thresholds and things like that. So a lot of benefits, a lot of good investment when it comes to property. Way better than a vehicle for sure.
Yeah. I think what you said, Nick, was a good point. Like, there's a finite amount uh, of land, right? There's, in theory, infinite amount of cars, right? Or whatever. But like, if you even think of it from like an accounting standpoint, property, you don't depreciate property like on a balance sheet or a profit and loss sheet. It doesn't depreciate in value, so you can't just write it off. Oh, my, this goes against my taxes or my revenue. It like essentially always goes up. Like, of course, there's a couple exceptions, but property always goes up. The hard thing about property, and like, this like gold versus silver, is like it's a lot harder to buy property. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, mortgages that you're paying for 30, 15, 30 years. So it's a more difficult barrier of entry to get into property. And also, people who try to flip property, like Nick was saying, like, well, like that could be expensive. You put a lot of work into it, it costs you taxes, and you have to hope that, like, in that short term, the market goes up. The market always goes up, and this is one last point I'll make. Like, people always say, like, oh, when's the housing market going to go down? When's it going to be easier? Well, in theory, never. Like, houses will always be more expensive today than yesterday, right? Like, there are little dips over a few months, but in a couple years, a house will be more expensive than it is today. So it's like it's kind of a catch 22. Like, the barrier of entry is high for property, but it's also only getting higher, but it'll also continue to grow if you own it.
Makes sense. Yeah, I think a big portion of it is not necessarily worrying about the dip, and it's just when can you invest into property that where you don't financially bankrupt yourself, right? I
Yeah.
think that's when that piece comes into play for sure. Well, thank you for that, gentlemen. Now, I have a random theory that I'm going to throw at you both here. So,
Okay.
I discovered a new infinite money glitch. Speaking of investing in things, I have gone at my local gas station and I just won $100 on my lottery ticket, right? So, when I've gotten this, I invested into more lottery tickets. I haven't scratched them off yet, right? So, I have a good hunch that I'm going to win $100,000. Now, I want to ask you something. I'm winning this $100,000. Was that actually a good investment, or did I was I right for the wrong reason? What do you think?
So hang on. So
Yeah.
the question is lottery tickets a good investment?
Absolutely.
So
I talked to this guy down the road. He was at the gas station. The come and go down here. He said that he just won $100. I know I'm going to get 100,000 from these stack of lottery tickets I just bought on my
Oh,
counter
you're
over here
saying
after
like
this podcast.
one for 100, 100 for 100,000.
Uh-huh.
Gotcha.
okay, that makes sense. Well, I think Bradley mentioned it before. If you hear the tip from one of your friends, it's probably not a good tip, right? No,
Hey, there it is.
so, so two things, right? The lottery has been called the poor man's tax, and I think you kind of get what that implies. It's how you keep poor people poor is you make them play the lottery, right? Also, if you've seen like this guy, he's kind of small. You might not know him. His name is Mr. Beast. He actually did video where he bought $1 million in lottery tickets, and you know how much he won? It was like 750,000.
Oh, nice. Okay. So he lost
Um,
25%.
Well, that wasn't as bad as like drop the facade. It wasn't as bad as I thought he would have lost. To be fair,
yeah, it's actually it was more impressive than I thought. But to your point, your 100 lottery tickets, if $1 million doesn't do it, I don't think your 100 lottery tickets are winning you anything. So
Okay, well, I just think a big portion that we see, I've seen over the past week. Why I bring this up? There's been this notion of once again where I see another round of, hey, we're hitting record high. What is it? The money ball? What is it called?
Oh,
That
Powerball?
Powerball.
Yeah,
Powerball. Yeah. Like we're hitting another record soon. We're having another like Powerball spike that's going to
Yeah.
happen. You should get a ticket now. I want to be very clear with the audience. I have not actually ever bought a lottery ticket in my life. I've been gifted them.
I've bought like
and
maybe 4 in my whole life, and usually it's for like work or like a party or something.
yeah, side note for work, by the way, fun fact, if your work offers you like the day off for a lottery ticket, take the day off. Your money that you'll get paid for is probably going to be worth more than the lottery ticket that you're going to win back on. Just a little self-help tip. And also to prove to
So,
you,
Dylan,
I'm not
since you
actually getting
brought it
lottery
up,
tickets.
I wrote something in November, how to protect yourself from the get rich quick mentality, and I talked about lottery tickets. Your chances of winning the Powerball or Powerball, whatever it's called, is 1 in 292 million. You're 6,200 times more likely to die from being stung by a bee than you are to win the jackpot. You are 1,500 times more likely to be struck by lightning than you are to win the Powerball. So you could get struck by lightning 1,499 times. You probably still haven't won the Powerball.
so you're telling me there's a chance?
So I need to take a lightning struck bee into the gas station with me, and then I can win the Powerball. Fantastic.
One last thing. Okay.
Here we go.
If you play the lottery 188 times over 25 years with a 292.2 million chance per play, which will probably go down over the years, over 25 years, your chances of winning is 0.000016. So, over 25 years, 188 times.
That's less than 1%. Yeah, hey, you know what I was going to say? Didn't need a degree for that one. So, just to be very clear, this is just kind of a little snippet of what I heard this week that it just always actually aggravates the hell out of me when I'm hearing people just invest in that. And like, not ironically, I'm just like, you could just go and put, how much is the lot? Okay, sincerely, how much is the lottery ticket? Like $10 to $20 you can get up to? Like, how much
Isn't
do you
it
buy them for?
$1? I don't know.
Well, I don't know.
$1, right? I don't know.
Okay, let's assume that it ranges from $1 to $30, right? Whatever you want to put in. You could literally put that same amount into a stock that can grow, or into your IRA, or literally anything that will give you guaranteed
Beanie
growth in
Babies.
your portfolio. Beanie Babies, the QR code, I'm telling you, that is your EFT, NFT, FTs everywhere. I'm telling you, that is the future. Anyway, that is such a mismarket. I'm telling you, people would fall for that in like a second.
Fall for it.
They fall for that scheme.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm just saying, if NFTs were such a craze during COVID, they'll fall for Beanie Babies plus NFTs. And the QR code on the tag, I'm telling you, they're easy
Perfect.
suckers. All right. So thank you, gentlemen, for that, and thanks for hearing me on my get rich quick scheme that I personally absolutely hate. I hate lottery tickets. Now this is for both of you. We had some reader questions come through. So now we get some subscribers coming through, and we really appreciate anybody, as I mentioned, across our social medias. Basically, if you have a social media site you visit, we're probably on there at Freedom Finances or freedomfinances.org. So definitely find us on there, and we'll be available to answer any questions. I personally have seen Bradley pretty engaged with that a lot, so definitely reach out. And plus, with all these new subscribers, it's a tip a day. Now, some questions on here that I have. So our first one, this is, like I said, open to either one of you. Are CDs good options for investments? Pretty straightforward.
Nick, you want to
Yeah.
go?
Yeah, I'll jump in. So CDs, I think it's a good investment as a part of a healthy portfolio, right? So I think historically CD rates haven't always been like the greatest. I think they were at a high of about like 5.5% like a couple of years ago. They've kind of gotten back down. I think the best ones you can get are like 4.5%. Which isn't bad if you've just got some money you want to set that you don't want to risk. It's not going to go up and down, and really your only risk is that the bank goes out of business. But I think I'm pretty sure they're insured anyways up to a certain amount.
Yeah,
So
they are.
there's realistically no risk to it. And some of CDs will pay their coupons monthly, quarterly, yearly, things like that. So you can actually get some of that money as you're invested in the CDs. So yeah, are you going to get rich? No, but it's a nice place to be able to hopefully keep up with inflation and not lose too much as long as inflation doesn't get too crazy. But I would not just drop your entire portfolio into CDs. I don't think it would keep up with other investments and things
Right,
like that.
right.
But look at the last quarter, and Bradley and ours game. CDs have beaten 90% of our
Yeah.
investments over the last couple of
That's
months.
actually
So
part of the reason why I'm winning is because I have a CD.
you have
Yeah,
exactly. So
yeah,
there are times where CDs are better than other things just
yeah.
because of their low risk.
I think the idea is like, okay, let's say I don't know, you're gifted $5,000. And you're like, I don't know what to do. Where should I put this? I want to buy a house in 2 years. A CD is a pretty good option, right? Like 2 years, theoretically, you'll lose out on a CD over the stock market. But if it's a bad couple years or there's a recession, you could lose out. But a CD, again, like Nick said, there's very, 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 very low risk, but it's a lower reward. So if it's a short time, you don't know what you want to do, put it in a CD. If you want to invest it for retirement, you could put a small portion of your portfolio into a CD, but put the rest in the stock market.
Yeah, I'll put it to a comparison. I don't know if anybody remembers or got them when they were a kid, but did any like grandparents give you guys like a savings bond
Yeah,
when you were a kid? And then they're
yeah,
like, "Oh, when you get older, this will be worth double that." Like
yeah,
that's kind of what a CD is anymore, right? If you get like
yeah,
a 10-year CD, I think now it's probably like a 20-year CD. It'll basically like double what you put in it over 20 years. Now,
yeah.
is that a great investment? No, but it's a guaranteed investment, and that's pretty cool, So.
I personally didn't get a CD or a savings bond, but I did get a Beanie Baby, so that was cool. Um, so thank you, Nick. Bradley, to you, same question, but Treasury bonds, good investment or not?
Treasury bonds are essentially the safest, a US Treasury bond is the safest investment possible. So the idea with a treasury bond is it's essentially the same thing as a CD, except it's not a bank, it's the United States government. And it's backed by the goodwill of the United States government, which will not default on its loans, or at least it hasn't ever really defaulted on its loans. But it's literally the safest bet that you can have for an investment. Usually, the bonds are about the same as a CD, sometimes a little bit less, sometimes more. If you get a U.S. bond, if you get a municipal bond, which is like you could get a bond from like a state or a local city or a township, that's higher risk, but it's also you're probably going to get a decent return. It's essentially the same thing, but a treasury bond or a T-bill, you can get them on Fidelity or Robinhood or Schwab or whatever, and you can put a little bit money into the government and get a return. If you want to reduce your risk and increase a little bit of diversity, a treasury bond is a decent option. It won't beat the stock market, but in a short term, it also won't lose any money.
Makes sense. And actually, funny enough, both of you mentioned like the insurance. Just a fun fact about myself. I think it was Nick. You mentioned about the banks being insured. I remember what was it like? I think it was The Dark Knight that mentioned like, "Hey, you can let us take all the money. they're insured by the government and everything. Is that the FDIC?
Yeah,
They're like
FDIC
member
insurance.
FDIC.
So it protects $250,000 in case the bank goes bankrupt. And it has to be that scenario. Otherwise, you're not getting your money back. Like I don't unless they have like a separate insurance. FDIC doesn't protect our banks from the Joker robbing it. It's like, sweet. Let me get my FDIC bank out. Someone robbed my safety deposit box. No, that's not how it works.
All right, cool. Well, I'm glad we cleared that up. So, moving on to the next one. And once again, this is open to either one of you. Should I move my money from my 401k to Roth because the taxes will go up later?
Nick, what do you think?
Yeah, so I'll share what I think, and then I'll share what I did. So if you were to withdraw your money from a 401k, which is pre-tax contributions, you're going to pay taxes on that today for earned income, whatever bracket you're in, however much you take out, and you'll probably pay a penalty as well if you're not at the retirement age, which is an additional 10%. So for even numbers, let's just say you're paying 30% or more to take your money out to put it into a Roth IRA,
Yeah.
hoping that it will grow over the next X amount of years, and then you can withdraw that money. So you're basically taking a hit today in hopes that it will grow more than what you lost and then some, so you can take advantage of that tax, benefit. I will say when COVID hit, there was a penalty-free withdrawal option on 401ks. And that's exactly what I did. I withdrew it. I paid I think it was 27% tax rate on it. And then I basically took that money and over the next couple of years did the max limit for Roth IRA contributions. So yeah, I bet that I would make more money in the long term. I think if you're close to retirement, you've got less than like 10 years before you retire, it doesn't make any sense. You don't have enough time in the market to really make it up. But if you've got 20, 25 years and you've got a substantial chunk of change that you want to do something like that with, I think you'd have to crunch the numbers. I'm not going to say it's great in every situation. I did it because there was an added benefit and, I had enough time. So I think everybody's situation is kind of unique. So maybe I think would be the answer to that question. Really do the numbers, really see if it makes sense, because it is a risk, it is a gamble, but could potentially pay off pretty substantially.
Yeah, I think the general rule is if you don't have any major lifestyle changes, let's say you're in the same job your whole life, just keep your 401k as it is, get to at least your employer match, keep that, and then you can start adding to a Roth IRA. Like if you lose your job, you can move money penalty free, tax free over to a Roth IRA from a 401k. So that's a good opportunity if you're like, hey, I want to take my 401k, my company 401k and move it into a Roth. So that way I get some tax benefits. That's that's a great idea. Otherwise, I'd probably just leave it.
Makes sense to me. Now, moving on to our last question we had a reader state, how much money should I have in my savings slash 401k by a certain age? Let's take by the age of 30. What am I looking at, Bradley? What looks good?
So there's a couple different resources, and you can just find this on the internet pretty easily. Investopedia has it, um, but here's a couple of resources. So the average balance from Empower, let's say if you're in your 30s, the average is around 181,000, or median is 73,000. So that's the middle. Or Investopedia has a little bit different numbers. In your 30s, somewhere 38.4 thousand in your 401k. So what I would think is like whatever your age is, like get started on your 401k now, especially with the employer match, because that number just quickly increases. And like it grows so much over 10, 15 years. If you're behind, that's okay. Like, you have time to make up for it. You just have to make sure you budget well. But the averages change based on different resources, based on fidelity, based on power bank, what you have. But I mean, if you're in your 30s, it's probably somewhere between the average you should have is no less than 30K, probably getting close to 100K before you turn 40 years old, if not more.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That helps out a lot.
Yeah, just to kind of add to that too, I've seen a couple of things that kind of, everybody's situation is a little unique. I think the general rule of thumb that I've seen is by 30, you should have about 1 year's salary in your 401k. And I believe by 40, it was 7 years, because I think with the compound interest, if you've been investing that entire time. But I think even those numbers can seem a little bit daunting. I think to Bradley's point, if you're getting your employer match, that's the biggest thing, and just being in the in the market, investing in it. But I would say before you go and like try to get anything above an employer match, make sure you're taking advantage of other investments, ESPPs and different things like that. And so I wouldn't stress so much about how much is in there, but I would make sure you're at least doing the employer match as
Yeah.
early as possible.
Yeah, having those right behaviors with your finances and the 401k is what's important. I mean, that's a good point, Nick. Like, you can't really throw a bunch of money into the past, but hit your employer match. Number one. Like, that's the most important thing. Figure out how you can get to that number and then go from
Literally
there if
free
you want to
money.
add more. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so, checking into that, at this point, we do have every question so far. I believe we've got answered on here. So I'm leaving it to the board on this one. So we usually have a weekly "Is the country dying / economy crumbling" section over the recession, and then I mean, it's still the same question. Are we crumbling right now? Are tariffs causing issues? Right now, on Investopedia, by the way, 2 hours ago, I see an article labeled "Stocks Plunge and Hot Inflation Reading: Weak Consumer Sentiment." Bradley, I feel like I need to pull out my 401k and freak out and buy gold. So what am I doing here? What's going on?
Oh, I don't think the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics hasn't released their new inflation report quite yet. Um, and we know egg prices are starting to stabilize. So I don't have any new update. The tariffs are kind of like coming to an ending point of we know what it's going to look like. Probably by April or May, we'll probably be at our landing point, and like the back and forth of the tariffs will work themselves out. And I think the stock market will kind of figure itself out by that point. But my answer is no. Nick, are we in inflation or a recession yet?
Well, we'll only know the answer to that in like 10 years. But
That's
I
a good
think as
point.
far as I think is the sky falling? No, I think we're close to bottoming out if we haven't already. I think I talked about the fear and greed index. We're still in the extreme fear category. Last I checked, it's a 22 out of 100, which still has us in the extreme fear, but we're very close to going into the fear category, which is in the upward trend. So I think as consumers get more or less afraid, more greedy, that'll naturally have prices starting to go up. So hopefully I'm not proven wrong, but I think the worst of it's probably behind us. Maybe there's a little bit. I know today was a rough day in the market, but I think that we are starting to see that fear kind of dissipate a little bit. And as people have more confidence, they'll throw more money into the stock market, which makes everything go up.
Yep.
And to add to this too, because as a person that reads only headlines, I decided to read a little more into this. Yes, Bradley did mention about the labor report not coming out as a piece of it. A lot of the fear is because inflation hasn't shown its full impact yet because of like tariffs that we're showing. So like tariffs haven't been fully invested into yet, as Bradley mentioned. It's a lot of factors. It's more of at this point what this headline to me states is a lot of like panic, but if you read into
Right.
it, it's a
Yeah.
lot of there
Yeah.
is panic because there's not any final numbers out yet, and this is a feeling piece. And if I had to actually label this article, it doesn't seem like actually a fact-based article. It seems more like here's an opinion of where it could easily lead, and it could be right.
Yeah.
It's just this feels like it's trying to just make sure you click to see if we're dying or not. So
That's pretty much what everything, even the stock market, has been. Like, what's going to happen?
Mhm.
Although there have been a few things with like products in the technical sector with like chips and like some issues with Meta has some issues, like Facebook having some issues with their clientele and chips and AI and technology, but it's mostly just like what's going to happen and people are afraid.
well, gentlemen, I really appreciate your time today. I'm just going to leave it the last little points of wisdom here that you both have. We'll close it out today. So, Nick, what do you got for us? What's the little words of wisdom for us before we go?
Yeah, no, I love our discussion around alternative investments. I think sometimes the stock market can seem a little bit overwhelming and things like that. If you want to go and just buy something that you like that's a collectible, maybe it goes up, maybe it doesn't. It could end up being a good investment. I think it's different. It's unique. And do it. And if it's got utility, that's cool too. If you want to throw a block of gold into a safe, like cool. You want to throw some Mario Sunshine or Beanie Babies into a safe, and you enjoy them. Maybe it's still up. I think there's many different ways to invest. It's not all just about the stock market, even though I know that's what we talk about a lot. Look for alternative investments. Do something that makes you feel comfortable. If you're not comfortable with stocks, go invest in something else. I like that. So
I'm telling you, the QR codes on the tags, on the Beanie Babies, that gets put on as an NFT. Bradley, back me up with your words of wisdom.
I think the words of wisdom are obviously NFTs is where it's all at. Beanie Baby NFTs. No.
Okay.
I mean, historically, over the last 125 years, the stock market is the best for long-term growth. It beats pretty much everything. Land is an amazing investment, but it's really hard to get property because it's expensive. You got to put a mortgage on it. You have to pay interest on a mortgage. I mean, just don't invest in things like, like collectibles hoping to make money because you may or may not, like invest in something in the long term and be smart about it. And if you want a collectible, if you want a car, that's fine, but that costs money and that takes part of your budget. My words of wisdom.
Yeah, absolutely do not invest in NFT Beanie Babies. I am absolutely kidding. That is not smart. So, thank you, gentlemen, and thank you, everyone in the FF family, for watching today. Please have a good morning, afternoon, and evening today. We appreciate you all for the new subscribers we've been getting. It's really awesome seeing our growth on here, and we're glad to share the ride with you all. And we have more content to come. So, we'll see you next week. We appreciate you all for watching today. Peace.
Adios.